Every day we wake up and face the challenges of modern life. Sometimes just getting through each day is a major achievement. We don't always have time to look far ahead into the future. But when we do, what do we see? For many of us, it will be a very different world than the one we grew up in. The fact is, things are changing, and changing fast. Rarely have humans experienced such a rapid pace of change, and it's affecting nearly every aspect of life. This lightning pace of change is creating a world that's increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Or what people are calling a VUCA world. For many of us, it can be hard to keep up with all the changes, and it's hard to know whether it will be good or bad for us. In this complicated, ever-changing future, it will be even more important to look forward, adapt, and change. And while it may be difficult to predict the future, there are clues of what's to come all around us, like how kids are teaching us about technology, and how people with cell phones can topple governments. These are just some of the signs that point to major trends in the future. We need to understand these trends because they will have a big impact on how we build powerful working families in the 21st century. Technology is changing life on Earth and at a blinding pace. Out of 6.8 billion people on the planet, 4 billion use a cell phone. And today's smartphones have more computing power than the first Apollo spacecraft that landed on the moon. Advances in technology are revolutionizing medicine, bringing driverless cars to our roads, robots to our workplaces, and connecting billions more people from the developing world to the internet. Kids today are true digital natives. They've never known a world without computers and the internet. And it's changing the way they think, work, communicate, and solve problems. Demographics are changing in important ways. We're getting older. Right now, a quarter of the U.S. population is over 55. By 2050, it will be up to 1/3. For the next 40 years, people over 80 will be the fastest growing age group, putting a strain on healthcare and retirement systems. Our society is also becoming more diverse. We see it every day on our jobs, in our union, and in our cities. Right now, the fastest growing racial group in the United States identifies as multiracial. By 2042, people of color will make up the majority of the U.S. population. Social attitudes are changing too. Today's youth tend to be more socially liberal, less religious, and less likely to trust large institutions or the government. Economic inequality is a huge problem, and it's only getting worse. Right now, in the U.S., it's the highest it's been since 1928. Over the past 40 years, real wages for workers have gone down. Today, 400 Americans have more wealth than half of the rest of us combined. And people of color and women still earn less. We rank among the lowest of developed nations in economic mobility, which means that kids growing up poor have a greater chance of staying poor. Meanwhile, large multinational corporations continue to have the upper hand in the world economy, creating millions of new middle-class consumers in some countries and locking millions of others in the global sweatshop. Climate change was once considered a future threat. Now it's a reality. Rising temperatures are triggering extreme weather like hurricanes and intense heat waves. In the future, we're likely to see more flooding of coastal cities, destruction of food sources, and the displacement of millions of people. Air and water pollution and the impact of climate change hit poor and working people the hardest. A UCLA study found low-income Californians were twice as likely to suffer from asthma symptoms because of poor air quality and less access to health care. New movements for climate justice are growing as people around the world unite for sustainable practices and the basic rights to clean air and water. The world of work is also changing. The 40-hour job with benefits is becoming a thing of the past. New models of work are popping up everywhere. Today, you can go to a website and bid for a micro job, like assembling IKEA furniture, writing or translating an article. Advances in automation mean that up to 47% of U.S. jobs are vulnerable to computerization in the next 2 decades, displacing even highly skilled workers. These changes in the workplace will affect workers in ways we can barely imagine. Where do we go from here? These trends pose real challenges and could lead to even greater economic disparity in the future. But they could also create new opportunities. We could discover better ways to live and work, new allies, and new ways to win. Our challenge is to figure out how to bend the trends so the future works for everyone, not just the wealthy. One thing's for sure, we'll have to organize in new ways. And we've already started. SEIU members are creating a path to power to fight for economic justice now and in the future. First, we continue to fight at the bargaining table and organize non-union workers in our industries. Second, we're expanding the path by joining with workers in other industries and finding new ways to organize, like our Fight for 15 campaign that unites workers in home care, child care, fast food, and airports. Finally, we know we need a long-term strategy to meet the challenges of the future in a volatile, VUCA world that is changing faster and faster. To help create that long-term strategy, SEIU brought together union leaders from all over North America to form the 21st Century Blueprint Committee. The committee has started by working hard to identify these key trends that will shape our long-term strategy for the future. Now we want your ideas. What trends do you see that signal the future for working people? How can we work together in our union to bend the trends toward the future we want for ourselves, our children, and our communities? What do we want our future to be?